Hi, I'm Mark Villasana, proud SMU alumni and agency principal of Northwest Insurance Agency. Give me a call if you'd like to discuss your insurance or if you just want to discuss SMU football. My phone number is 214-352-5656, or you can email me at info@nwagencies.com. Pony up.
This is the On the Pony Express podcast, part of the On3 network. Check out all the SMU coverage you need at ontheponyexpress.com. Now, here's your host, Billy Embody.
1, 2, 3, let me go.
Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the On the Pony Express podcast, live this time. Once again, trying to do more of these live shows for you guys to help get you through the workday as soon as possible, at least on YouTube. So appreciate you guys listening. Again, head over to ontheponyexpress.com. We're just weeks away from spring ball, and the recruiting dead period is now over. So great time to sign up for just $1 for your first week. And obviously, it's the middle of the football off season, really, and we've got news that really covers us on the site a little bit, as the ACC did reach that settlement with Clemson and Florida State to keep them at least happy, at least at bay, whatever you want to call it, and really settle the long-term future of this league for the foreseeable future. And in realignment, somebody made a great point on the Pony Express message board that 5 years is a very long time. And during this period, the league is going to have opportunities to make more money. The league is going to have opportunities to show that an uneven revenue distribution model works and can actually help these programs that do draw the number of viewers that are necessary to really allow that unequal revenue sharing model to come to fruition. And, for SMU, they're sitting there not getting that tier 1 TV revenue anyway. This is a win for SMU because you've got a league now that at least through 2030 appears to be kind of settled as far as the landscape of what you're going to expect. And the thing with realignment, and I've said this, and I said when Clemson and Florida State decided to sue the ACC, that put a general, let's just say, exit notice out there, like an informal exit notice out there that at some point they're going to try to leave this league. The thing that most people, when they talk about realignment or they talk about these TV deals or they talk about whatever has been going on with the ACC, they thought, this is going to get settled and FSU is going to be out of there and be in a new league come 2025 football season and at least know where they're going to go. And somebody's going to go out and get Clemson and do those type of things. Well, that timeline was so crunched and very, very unlikely. And overall, this is a pair of schools, a part of a larger group that signed a grant of rights. And whatever they want to try to argue and this and that to have made their point in court about, well, this was changed or it should be out in the open or what have you, they entered into an agreement. And that was going to be very, very tough to overcome when they knowingly entered in to that agreement. And that's why the settlement came about. That's why Commissioner Jim Phillips and the ACC was able to make this settlement happen. Now, the two major pieces of this is that there is the revenue distribution tweak that is going to happen and is going to be based on TV viewership. And then the financial penalties for exiting the league, the league's grant of rights is now changed. That grant of rights does run through June 2036, but now you're seeing a much lower financial penalty come into play at the end of 2030. And that will be something that could allow a Clemson, a Florida State, a North Carolina, any school really, to pay to get out of the league and go somewhere else. But that is the challenge with the current phase we're in with realignment. Television providers are not interested in paying more. I mean, ESPN and the MLB just parted ways. You've got Fox that really had to be dragged to the table to get Oregon and Washington in at a reduced rate. And then you have the overall general sentiment that these massive conferences like the Big Ten and even to the and you know, a negative to the ACC, they're now coast to coast conferences, the insane travel stories, but that isn't going to be necessarily a sticking point when it comes to doing what's right for a league to then either expand or better position itself for a television rights deal like the Big 12, like the Big 10 has coming up in 2030-ish, right around, I think it's 2030, 2031 maybe. So when you have those things that are kicked down the road a good bit, you don't have to have all the answers right now. You don't have to have all of the things for the long-term future of the ACC or any league figured out. There's time for all of this. There's time for now the league to kind of settle and see what happens during this phase of success initiatives and then the unequal revenue sharing that'll happen for TV viewership. And that allows the league to operate with a sense of, you know, what's coming, or at least you think you know what's coming, and you think you know where your league stands as a whole. And that is underrated, because if you look at where a league like the Big 12 stands, the Big 12 stands is, it's, I mean, just be honest. I mean, I am of the opinion that it doesn't have one true brand name football program in there. I mean, Utah, Arizona State had a great season. Credit to them for putting that together, making the college football playoff. They had some intrigue down the stretch, don't get me wrong, but it's just not a league that is going to command much more money, if any more money, in the next round of TV rights deals. And that's what this is all about. And Brett Yormark, that's why he's scraping together all sorts of different ways to try and put together more money. And meanwhile, Jim Phillips was able to get the deal extended with ESPN and kind of put that in a good position. And the ACC network's doing well. The league has its own network, which has been really, really helpful to it with its relationship with ESPN. And now you're entering a period where you did have, you've had a Miami see a little bit of a resurgence. You have Florida State was the talking point of college football for all the wrong reasons, at least. You have Clemson that appears to be entering what is a return to the greatness that Dabo Swinney has put together. And then you have SMU that came onto the scene, made the college football playoff, and was able to make some things happen in year one. They had a good ad in SMU, and overall the league has some good storylines. They have some really good markets, TV markets. You've got Georgia Tech in Atlanta. You've got the Raleigh-Durham kind of area. You've got North Carolina pretty well handled overall. But you also have, and this just in as well, that from Ross from Andrea Adelson, the exit fee of the ACC drops to $75 million after 2030. And it is obviously significant drop off. And at the end of the day, though, the ACC has to secure its immediate future. And during that next phase of potential exits, potential TV rights negotiations, and things like that, you have to really cover to make sure that any existing team will retain its. Yeah. So you have to secure, obviously, that financial situation. And that is probably the biggest thing. It is not great for the league. Like, it is I'm of the opinion that it's, you know, I mean, you walk back where you stand. I mean, you walk back giving up, you know, the opportunity to hold on to those rights and keep them hostage and do all of those things. But also, you have to remember that if this thing didn't need to be kept in litigation and in the courts for that long. It's just not a good situation for the league to be in. So when you have the ability now to at least settle and know kind of where things are and what the goals are, and everybody's going to at least try to pull in the right direction here, that's really important. And again, I've said it. I think that as soon as Clemson and FSU sued the league, that put a timestamp on, hey, at some point we're going to be out of here. The question the league was able to answer is, how much time are they going to have to make this thing work, to make them be in a position where maybe they can't leave? Maybe they can't find a Big Ten or an SEC that makes sense for them. And with that, then they sit in the ACC, and maybe their number has gone up because of viewership. Maybe the success initiatives have worked out. Clemson and SMU, for making the college football playoff, both got an additional $4 million this year for doing that. So, and on top of that, the top earners in viewership, according to ESPN, do have the opportunity to earn an additional $15 million in revenue. And some schools will see a reduction in annual payout of about $7 million, which, to keep the league's future stable, and if you kind of think ahead now, over the course of these 5 years or so, the payout for an exit fee immediately after 2030 would be $75 million. So you could, in theory, recoup some of that if those schools ultimately did leave. And if not, then the league is in a strong-ish position long-term to be the P3 conference out of those four. So overall, the ACC gets a lot of, I think, stability from this for at least 5 years. And we'll see what realignment holds. We'll see if the NCAA is still around in 5 years. I mean, this is an ever-changing world of college athletics. And if you try to even predict and speak in absolutes and all of those things, just so your voice is maybe the loudest on this, it's silly. It's just not the way that this is really shown to be played out overall. There are a lot of answers that are going to go unanswered or a lot of questions that are going to go unanswered for a long time with this. And whatever Jim Phillips is doing to get people to stick around and to get this conference stabilized a little bit, that's a positive. And so we'll see where things stand, in 5 years from now, and what we're looking at, and what these colleges are going to end up doing. And if, Clemson or Florida State is going to leave and take less to go to the Big Ten or the SEC, it's going to all be intriguing. And remember, SMU obviously gave up a lot of money to go to the ACC, and it paid off in a big way. You can, in theory, say that if you do go to the Big Ten or the SEC and you give up that type of money to go, it could work out for you long term. So doesn't mean you'll necessarily be on the winning side of things by any means, but to be able to be in those two leagues, it's worth the investment. It's much better than trying to get private equity to pay up for you, and then you've got to pay that money back to them over the course of your efforts to try and earn more money. I mean, you might as well try to do the sweetheart deal that SMU did. So, and that's a good transition to, the impact on SMU with this. And we'll talk about that in just a second. But I do want to remind you guys that we are presented by our friends at AKM Turf and Greens. Reach out to them today and get $500 off your first project today. And I was talking with Alex Carpenter, the owner and operator of AKM Turf and Greens, and he said 18 projects this month of March. Really, really exciting stuff going on over there. They also refresh your yard too. And if you mention On the Pony Express or code Pony Up, get $500 off your project today. Going to get some fresh video of some of their new projects that they've got going on around the area. We actually had another subscriber recently reach out to them. So they're doing great work over there at AKM Turf and Green. So hope you guys give them a shout. info@akmturfandgreens.com for more. So the impact on SMU for this is really interesting because you're seeing a program that, with its alumni base, is probably not necessarily going to draw the week-to-week numbers of viewership that you would want to be among those top programs in terms of viewership for the ACC. But with the trajectory of the program, that gives you better opportunities to play on bigger stages when it comes to league games. But at the end of the day, SMU, the ability to earn more money by making the ACC championship, by making the college football playoff, by maybe one day advancing in the college football playoff, those are all important things to note, that these success initiatives that are in place allow SMU to control its own destiny, in a sense of, you are giving up tier 1 TV revenue. That was a decision they made. And if some teams leave the league, I believe they do get kicked up to that tier 1 revenue and start receiving some of that money. But that is a conversation for a different day, where SMU can handle business and get and see the impact from this settlement is by winning. And I know that is so simple and very, I think, obvious. It does pave the path, and that's why there's so much investment at SMU right now between president, new athletic director, the football program, and NIL and revenue sharing coming. The goal is to win, 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 win. And if you do that, you're going to be viewed more on television no matter what, because you're going to be playing bigger games. People are going to want to see what you are about as a program, and that will maybe carry you up into some of those better situations with the unequal distribution model, which, we've seen some of it. We haven't seen all of it as far as the exact particulars of this deal and this thing. But for SMU to be in a conference now where at least university leadership can know, okay, got 5 years. And that's why people ask me this a lot. Man, why make a change now with the president? Why, is President Turner, retiring, or why is Rick Hart stepping aside with Jay Hartzell coming in? It's because there is a short runway of the time frame that SMU has to make all of the right moves, so that whenever the next iteration of college athletics or the next iteration of power conferences come to be, SMU is trying to put itself on the right side of all of that. And now that they're in the power conference club again, there is some, I think, optimism and general sentiment that SMU is in the club now. It's going to be very hard for them to get taken out of that club. But the way to stay in the club is to keep spending, keep winning, and keep showing that commitment that SMU showed the ACC. Hey, we're in this for the long haul. We want to make this happen at a very high level. And that's important with all of this. That is not something that I think even people from the outside of the ACC, or even some of the ACC people who were first introduced to SMU this year when they became full league members, is just how much SMU wants this to work and wants to be a good conference partner, which I know is funny talking about when we're talking about Clemson and Florida State settling over lawsuits with the league. It's kind of an interesting, opposite end of the spectrum. But that's what SMU has brought to the table, and that's what I think is sometimes lost in the years of SMU kind of maybe playing its cards quietly behind the scenes, and people kind of wondering what's going on. Are they trying to even do this? The reason why it played out so well for them and did all those things is because they were able to handle it with a general sense of, yes, SMU is battling to get into a power conference, but they really worked it behind the scenes very well. And I think that really showed the ACC that they were going to be a good conference partner, and things have really panned out very well for SMU since doing that. And it's helped the league. And again, that's not lost on people as they start to talk about SMU around the country more and more. So good news for SMU overall. That should kind of settle things for a little bit in the ACC, and we'll see. SMU has to keep winning, keep spending. That is the name of the game these days. And speaking of spending, spend on a Status Jet charter trip. Reach out to statusjet.com today. Get a discount on a round trip flight with our code PonyUpACC. Big jets, small jets, book them for your family, book them for your friends, a boys trip, spring break. You've got all sorts of opportunities to book a trip with our friends at Status Jet. They'll help you plan every second of the trip. And we're already getting going, planning those trips out for the 2025 football season. So make sure you don't miss any of it by starting the conversation with them. It might make sense for you, and Status Jet will take care of you at an elite level that you'd expect from a private jet company. So appreciate Status Jet for their sponsorship of the On the Pony Express podcast. All right, before we get into some football general news and notes, it is senior night for SMU tonight. If you're watching this show, SMU is welcoming Syracuse to Moody Coliseum tonight, an 8 p.m. Central Time tip-off on the ACC network. And SMU, and actually, sorry, not ACC network, ESPNU, 8 p.m. tonight. They are trying to white out Moody Coliseum as well, so make sure that you wear your white and help them out there as they honor a group of seniors that is quite the group, I would say. Keon Ambrose Hilton, Matt Cross, Tibet Gorner, Chuck Harris, Cario Oquendo, and Jackson Young will get honored. That is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 scholarship players, and then Jackson Young, who will be honored pregame tonight. Mustangs sit 21-8 overall. 12-6 in the ACC. They lost to Stanford on Saturday. The Mustangs are favored by double digits in this matchup. And I mean, Syracuse 6-12 in the ACC, 12-17 overall. This is a really good opportunity for SMU, and we'll see if Boopy Miller plays. The team, as of recording, will be going around doing shoot-around shortly. So hoping for those of you who are at ontheponyexpress.com to be able to drop some news on whether or not he'll play tonight or whether the general sentiment is. But Andy Enfield did say on Monday that they're hopeful that Boopy Miller will be available this week. And there was certainly some optimism that, the program is going to get him back this week. It would really be big for them to get him back, obviously, just ahead of the ACC tournament. Get him back into the flow of the game, get him back working out with the guys on the court in a live bullets flying type of environment before you head on the road to Florida State. And then you've got the chance, if you win these next two games, I think if you win the next two, you're going to end up being the 4th seed in the ACC tournament, which is just massive. And then you face, a combination of whether it be Wake Forest or UNC. We'll see kind of how that settles out over the course of the next week. SMU and UNC sitting tied at 12-6 in conference play. Wake has that extra loss at 12-7, but SMU definitely needs to win out, and we'll see where things stand if they do that. But obviously, if SMU gets that bye into, I believe, the quarterfinals, they would then face either Wake or Duke, or Wake or UNC. And then if they win, they would face Duke, which, again, if you're SMU now, and it's interesting, it doesn't get talked about not having Boopy Miller or not having Samet Yigitolu earlier in the year. And when I said Boopy, I meant like the last 5 games, those being critical opportunities. It'll be interesting to see how the committee plays that. And look, I'm not sitting here saying that I think SMU is going to get in the NCAA tournament as an at-large at this point. If SMU gets that 4th seed, or even, I mean, look, it wouldn't be I guess they can't afford another loss, so it doesn't really matter. But they get that 4th seed, they get a win over UNC or a Wake, would be a solid win. And then if they find a way to beat Duke, then maybe do you get let in? We'll see. But SMU's just got to keep on trying to win these games. And if you get Boopy Miller back, it's a big boost. It's a big opportunity to do that. So it's a good group of seniors that they're going to be honoring. SMU has 3 signees in the high school ranks and a 4th committed. So they'll lose 5 of those scholarship players. So in theory, 1 more spot available right now. But this is a program that, and I was asked this on the live show board. We're going to see the staff go hunting in the portal for sure. And Braden Burries is the only prospect who is on the radar. I don't know if they'll make that late offer you can't refuse type of NIL deal to get him. I would think they, at this point, know that they have to find somebody proven, because to probation coach's question on the message board, SMU has to make the NCAA tournament next season to fulfill expectations. And in terms of what steps are taken to ensure that, I mean, you've got to go out and you've got to kill the portal. You've got to find a guy like Matt Cross. You've got to find a guy who can really help you improve the backcourt. I mean, that's kind of the tough piece. You have Chuck Harris, who you lose. You lose Cario Oquendo. You, in theory, add like talent in the front court, like a Jaden Toombs. You add a guy out on the wing, like a Jermaine O'Neal Jr. You add a player like, and I can't believe I'm forgetting him. Of course I am. But you add Nigel Walls in the front court as well. So you lose Keon, you lose Keon, and you lose Matt. Really, I mean, you could be looking at some young talent that can at least develop in the front court and kind of give new blood. Jermaine O'Neal Jr. can kind of be a Matt Cross type of replacement, in my opinion. Maybe a little bit more of like a Cario, where you play a little bit more of the 2, the 3 at times. But that's where it's going to be really interesting, because you, on paper, have Boopy Miller back. You have a program that just, I don't think, got enough out of the backcourt when healthy at times. Like, I know that might be a little insane to say, but you got the most out of Matt Cross, and you have a team that at the same time athletically just wasn't good enough to be at the upper echelon. And I talked about this before the season. When you looked at this team and you looked at the roster, the question was going to be, can athletically at that 3 spot, which is a really difficult position to recruit. It's a high level type of player in this type of a league that you're looking to play out there. And really the only player who could play it well for SMU this year was Matt Cross. And while athletic and crafty and all of those things and tough and rugged, that is a position where SMU can absolutely use a boost of athleticism. And as far as the ball handling and point guard play, SMU could use, obviously, a very nice replacement for Chuck Harris. They would love to go out and find somebody who can be, I mean, and I don't want to say this because I think Boopy is kind of settled in very well, or at least was settling in very well before he got hurt. But SMU needs an elite level point guard. And that's something that Andy Enfield, I feel like, has found in bigger guards throughout his career. And that's when his offense is at its best. And that's when his defense is able to make things happen. And SMU just needs an upgrade in size and athleticism. I mean, on the perimeter, I think in the front court, Samet Yigitolu is going to continue to develop. Jarrell Colbert, if he's your 5th guy in that front court, is not a bad option. Johan Traore is kind of up and down. You'd hope that they can figure out a way to get more out of him next year. You'll see if Mitchell Holmes ends up, playing at SMU. He redshirted this year, as did Chance Puryear, and we'll see what their futures hold. because that's the thing about college basketball. Every year is a potentially new roster, and that's the crazy thing about it. But that is the truth, and so it's talked about. It's. I mean, you could say that for any player on any basketball roster in a sense. Well, if they're back, but overall for SMU, they do have some plans in place. I think the NIL, and this is the difference, I think, with Andy Enfield compared to some coaches out there. And I'm not saying all coaches. I'm not saying, Andy Enfield's the best thing since sliced bread because he does it this way or whatever. But there is a sense that last year when they come in, they were trying to put together a roster that could be competitive. And guess what, guys? Absolutely check box. They were hired probably a week later than they really wanted to. You had a school in USC that didn't exactly want to give them up and let them go. And that's why they ended up leaving a year or a week later. And they were kind of behind because of that. And they had to play it very carefully too. It was contentious, whether people want to believe that or not. And it's not as much as an excuse as much as it is the reality that every hour with the portal and every hour with roster construction, that time of year is important. And I'll add that they have their processes in place now. And they brought pretty much the whole staff from USC where they've all settled in now. They know what SMU is. They know the expectation. They know what they can play to here. This is going to be the telltale sign of how this tenure could, in theory, go. Because they've checked a lot of the boxes in recruiting off the court or recruiting in the high school ranks and some of the off-court things that they've done. But they still need to find a way to put together a team that punches through the ceiling and goes to the NCAA tournament. And they have the resources and they've had the time now to put all of that together. So if they have that, then great. They need to be able to put that together and assemble a roster and fix some of the holes or fix some of the areas that need to be improved. But tonight is about the seniors. I know I just went on a roster construction rant there, but tonight is about the seniors. Tonight's about getting back on track for SMU against a not great at all Syracuse team, but one that obviously has a lot of pride still. That's a proud program, and we'll see how it goes. But if you're SMU, you need to come out and, quite frankly, you need to jump on them early, and you need to beat the brakes off them, and you hope that Boopy Miller is back for that. So before we move into the football side of the show, do want to remind you guys to...
At Thomas Auto Group, we created the Thomas Promise exclusively for our customers.
Because we believe our customers are the best. And the best customers deserve the best from us, too.
That's right. The Thomas Promise includes the low price promise.
Next is the pre-owned promise.
And the 72-hour exchange promise.
And finally, the 100% customer satisfaction promise. So shop Thomas Auto Group today, right here in McKinney, home of the Thomas Promise.
Yeah, head over to the Thomas Auto Group, up 75 in McKinney, Ford, Subaru, Volkswagen, bringing my car in there this week and getting it all tuned up. It's got an AC thing. It's not a Ford, Subaru, Volkswagen. I've got Jeep, but their technicians can work on it, look at it, do all those things. So they're certified across different, car brands and can take care of you, and really looking forward to getting over there. And who knows, maybe I'll walk around a little bit and see what else is up there. But they always take great care of us. So appreciate their partnership. And if you're in the market for a new vehicle, make sure you mention On the Pony Express and get employee pricing on new and pre-owned vehicles at the Thomas Auto Group. All right, football. The NFL Combine wrapped up. We have not talked about that. But did want to give shout outs to Jared Harrison Hunt, Elijah Roberts, and Brashard Smith. It seemed like each of them raised their stock in different ways, I would say. And Brashard Smith clocking a sub 4.4, 4.39 was a huge deal to get him really, I think, in a deep running back class, a little bit more notoriety after almost 2,000 yards on the ground, and his top end speed really shined in the 40-yard dash. this is a guy who I think on paper is probably a day 2 pick. I don't know if he is going to get up into that by any means. I mean, no one really truthfully knows, but you have a player who I think will outperform his draft spot. Like if he ends up a 3rd round guy, I think he'll make an impact. And this is the interesting thing with running backs and how I at least judge draft picks and running backs and things like that. If you draft a running back in rounds 2 through 7 and you get 4 really good years out of him, that is awesome. And I think Brashard could very well end up being in the league with his speed. I mean, 6 to 8 years. I mean, that's just kind of the running back thing. Like, I don't think that's a knock. I don't think that's, a huge deal for me to say, but his ability to catch the ball, his ability to, finish falling forward, picking up additional yardage, his toughness, that's something that most NFL teams would obviously welcome. And when you have that ability to catch football, it opens you up to being a 3rd down guy right away. And maybe you grow into a bigger role, or maybe a team is running back needy and you get your opportunity and you make it happen and you break out as a rookie. All those things can happen. But when you have that chance to catch the ball, split out, be versatile, that's what the NFL is really all about. I mean, it's you've got to provide in different ways. And that's where I think Brashard Smith really helped himself there, is just confirming what it looked like he brought to the table overall. And then Elijah Roberts comes out, and he's with the edges, and he is running a 4.78 at 285 pounds. I really think that's a pretty good number. It wasn't great among edges, but when you have that type of size, you're in a different like boat overall. I mean, you're not somebody who is really going to be out there covering a ton in space. I mean, you're going to be a potential chess piece type of player with your chance to play outside, your chance to play inside and do all of those things. But, that's again where the NFL really likes players that can add that and can bring that to the table. And I think with his 40, I think that really helped him out. His arm length, 33 and 5/8 is pretty strong there as well. And there are some freakazoids in the true edge department, but that's why, if he's an early day 3 guy, that is what you're looking for with Elijah and Jared Harrison Hunt. It'll be a really interesting case study on production, pressures, all of those things versus true draft, like where you end up being drafted and then where your production takes you in the league. Because I think Elijah Roberts is going to play 10 years in the league. I think he's wired that way. And Jared Harrison Hunt really helped himself with his testing and his workouts and things like that. But is somebody going, or are too many teams going to look at Elijah Roberts and say, hey, you are you're an edge, but are you going to be a 3 tech in the league? And obviously everybody knows we love Elijah Roberts on this podcast, and we were high on him pretty quickly when he got to SMU, but that's just, I don't know, maybe it's me saying, okay, well, how will this actually play out in the NFL and all of those things? And on the flip side of that, you have Jared Harrison Hunt, who I felt like at times early on, it took him a minute at SMU, and he had a lot of production over the course of his 4 years in college football, 5 years in college football. 6. 2019, 1 game redshirt, and then 2020 didn't count, and then 21, 22, 23, 24. This is a guy who had a career year, and now that he was able to go out and run the 40 that he did, get under 5, and not sure why we lost the camera there if you were watching, but we'll take a quick break here in just a second and get the camera back on. But for SMU to have a guy like Jared Harrison Hunt, get to that level where he's running that 40 and making, teams pay more attention to him. Now, when you recognize the need of defensive tackles and NFL teams and trying to find those guys that can do that for them, does he become SMU's highest drafted player? I mean, that is not something I would have necessarily had on the bingo card before the combine, but now with his ability to run, maybe it is what happens. Maybe we kind of see it all kind of flip in a way. Going into the combine, I would have probably said Elijah Roberts, maybe he's the highest drafted guy, then Brashard, then Jared Harrison Hunt. But I was talking with one agent and, a lot of buzz around Jared Harrison Hunt. So really interested to see how the NFL draft goes. I don't claim to be a draft guru as far as projections and things like that. But generally what I've seen, I think I kind of pieced some of it together here on what those guys did. And now with Pro Day on March 24th, they'll have another opportunity to really impress again. But I would say all three had really good, weeks and efforts in Indianapolis. So a good situation for SMU and what they'll bring. And look, there's quite a handful of Mustangs that didn't end up getting invited to these postseason bowls or the combine. And I think Pro Day will be pretty well attended, as it normally is these days for SMU, but it'll be really well attended in my opinion. So we will see how that goes. But before we get into some SMU football talk, some actual SMU football talk, do want to remind you guys to head over to Rusty Taco and check out their new menu. We've got an incredible deal for you guys. Get free corn fritters when you mention On the Pony Express in person at the Greenville Avenue store only. Still working on getting that out to the other ones, but get free corn fritters with any purchase and check them out. See their new menu. Really, really good stuff that Rusty Tacos brought to the table for you guys for years and years. I mean, they are one of the go-tos for any college student at SMU, and they really just one of the great patios or underrated patios near SMU too. Just kind of sit out there, enjoy the nice weather that we'll be having this weekend, hopefully, and they just continue to do what they do, which is bring it. So you can take advantage of the free corn fritters both in person at the Greenville Avenue store by mentioning Pony Express, or type in the code Pony Express, one word, for online orders at the Greenville location only. So we're still working on getting it out to the rest, but check them out. Rusty Taco, appreciate their support of On the Pony Express. All right, football continues to inch closer toward the start of spring ball, and we're starting our breakdowns positionally of the positions at ontheponyexpress.com, so check those out. But also, it's a time where the recruiting side of things is starting to heat back up, and SMU did have a prospect on campus for another visit, and did want to pass this along that it was Jake Johnson, the Prosper defensive lineman, who does have an official visit set to SMU for this summer, the Pony Express weekend. He'll be on campus and will be checking in on the Hilltop, but he's also got a few other official visits lined up too. So the Mustangs sit in a good spot overall, but Wisconsin is going to host him, UNC is going to host him, and USC is supposed to host him this summer as well. So look, if you're SMU and you are really pressing for Jake Johnson, which hosting him on campus for an unofficial visit the first day that, prospects are allowed to get back out, I think it says a lot as far as where he stands on the board for Calvin Thibodeau as he continues to go through, that push for defensive linemen from the high school ranks. I've said it. You've got Yaya God committed to this program, but you also have a big need for high quality high school defensive linemen to be brought into the program. And that helps you save money on NIL. That helps you, put yourself in better position to retain those guys because they're from the high school ranks. But for SMU, they have a good list of defensive linemen that they're after out of the high school ranks, and we'll see how it goes on that front. So looking forward to obviously a lot more coverage on these high school guys coming your way that we'll be sharing. We'll have Jake's full reaction up shortly on the site as far as his visit go. I had a good chat with him yesterday. So SMU continues to get players on campus. The dead period is over. The quiet period is now underway. So the coaches can't go out on the road recruiting, but they can host prospects. They're coming through. They're watching workouts. They're meeting with the staff. They're seeing what it's like to maybe be a SMU Mustang day in, day out in Rhett Lashley's program. And that's really where you can, I think, make a good impact on players. I look back on like a Tyron Polley. I look back on a Jermico Green last recruiting cycle. And, Polley was committed for a bit. And Jermico was somebody who ended up taking an early official visit to SMU and then taking other official visits and then still sticking with that commitment he made silently. Those two guys are prime examples of the hard work, the mindset that these players that are being recruited to be brought into this program, how those mindsets match what is already in the program. And that's where you get those guys around enough, get them around to practice, you get them around to the workouts, and they can just kind of feel it, the culture. They can feel the right situation that SMU has in place for them. And that's where you can really kind of separate yourselves at times. And other programs do things well and do workouts well and do practice well and impress in those areas and things like that. But, when you're locked in some of these recruiting battles like Jake Johnson, Wisconsin, USC, UNC, some big name programs that are battling SMU, none of those programs have had the success that SMU's had in the last couple of years, in a sense, but you have to find ways to win these type of battles for these local prospects. So that's what SMU is trying to do with Jake Johnson, is keep him at home and keep him, playing in the state of Texas. That's what, if you're Rhett Lashley, you want to do, is you want these players to really, if they're local in particular and you want them, you got to keep them at home. And when it comes to defensive linemen, that's really important that you do that as well. So a really, really good start to the recruiting period for SMU. And they've dished out some offers to some younger players as well as of late, getting in the mix for some prospects locally. But a recent addition to the official visit list that I want to share with you guys is a guy that SMU's been on for quite some time, a top 50 prospect in the country. But Jamarian Carrollton has set his official visit for the June 6th recruiting weekend, the Pony Express weekend. The Temple, Texas edge rusher will be on campus. Again, one of the best prospects in the country, top 50 overall prospect, top 10 edge. He's been to campus a bunch. He's got Baylor, Texas A&M, SMU official visits set. He also has a top 6 that includes SMU along with Baylor, LSU, Texas A&M, and USC. It's going to be interesting to see if SMU can somehow position itself to win this one. Texas and Texas A&M, and don't count out Baylor either. Those are the ones that I really feel like are maybe, they're definitely SMU's biggest competition, in my opinion, at least, following this one. But SMU has stayed consistent in terms of keeping him coming to campus, and Jamarian is somebody who, at least from my read on him, he's a pretty quiet guy. Like, I don't think he needs to spend too much time taking a million visits and trying to create interest where maybe there's not. I just don't see him as somebody who wastes people's time. So they're saying SMU's getting Jamarian Carrollton, but they've hung around well enough in this recruitment to make his top schools, to make his final group of official visits, which is at least worth noting. So we'll see if SMU can pull it off with Jamarian Carrollton, but he is a recently new locked-in official visitor that SMU's gotten on the books for what will be, this is turning into quite the summer for SMU, both on the May 2nd recruiting weekend that's blowing up. Then you have the Pony Express weekend, June 6th, and then you have the last weekend of June for visits, June 20th, that SMU has a really good group of prospects locked in. And then another one that did add an official visit recently is Markel Dabney. SMU made his top group of schools as well, securing an official visit from him. Michigan, Penn State, Pitt, and Virginia Tech are his top schools. He'll be at SMU that May 2nd weekend. Virginia Tech, May 30th, Pitt, June 5th, and Michigan, June 13th. And he's working on setting up that official visit with Penn State as well. So for SMU, I mean, this is where you see the season really make a difference, because this is somebody who generally will probably be, I would say, somewhat of a like a tough pull out of the region. And in a sense, like, stick with me here. You have a group of Michigan, Penn State, Virginia Tech, Pittsburgh, schools that generally you would think for a kid who is out of the Virginia area to really consider and probably favor over a school all the way in Texas. But Markel Dabney told Steve Wiltfong, our vice president of recruiting and all of that, Steve got this from him, and he said, I'd say my relationship with the coaching staff is the best out of all 5 schools. The school really grew on me in terms of everything. They shot to the top just last year, making it to the college football playoffs, and my relationship with the whole staff is extremely great. So if you're SMU, you're battling a program billed as LBU in Penn State. You've got Michigan, who's won a national championship. You've got Virginia Tech and Pitt, 2 ACC foes that are kind of in that, hard-nosed kind of lunch pail style mold, at least with those 2 coaches that are leading those programs. But to get the best relationship, maybe that is what carries the day. But Markel Dabney, a highly recruited linebacker out of the Virginia area, does have his official visit locked into SMU. We'll see if they can get that one across the finish line. And Maurice Crum has really done a nice job, I think, recruiting nationally at that position. Mark Giannakor is a prime example of that, going out to California and beating out Oklahoma and Washington for him in the last cycle. And then you've got, some in-state talent like a Joseph Credit out of Pearland, who is a really high-quality prospect who SMU's been after for a long time. And they also have a lot of official visits set from guys that are outside the state overall. So SMU's brand really grew up a little bit with this college football playoff run. So it's going to be a really fun offseason to follow how it all goes, truthfully. I mean, it is not going to be light on intrigue this summer. And if SMU cleans up and they do what they really are capable of doing this summer, you're going to see a program that sits by the end of the summer, in my opinion, firmly in the top 25 in recruiting. If they can clean up the way they're kind of trending with some of these prospects being in that top 1 to 3 range, then you assess, okay, here's how rev share looks. Here's what your opportunity here looks like. Then you see how the chips fall on a lot of these highly recruited guys. That's where SMU's at. They are battling some other big programs that have had success, that have those inroads, that have that maybe history a little bit more. And now they're coming on as a team that made the college football playoff, has a lot of prospects and players talking about joining that program and building on that. Now you got to get these guys across the finish line. It'll really pick up in May when it comes to official visitors, but don't count out the spring. SMU is going to have that nice, strong window from the last week of March all the way into April to host guys unofficially, get them around a little bit more as well, to see the ins and outs of the program before making those official visits. Really about the celebration of getting these guys back on campus. Most of the guys who will be on campus for official visits will be making a return to SMU. So look, guys, that's about it on this live edition of the podcast. We hope you guys enjoyed it. Loved getting the interaction from our message board subscribers. Again, on the ponyexpress.com. Go join the message board. Just $1 for your first week, and then stay with us through spring football. It's really, really a good time being on the message board. So we appreciate all you guys who support the podcast, listening, watching, however you catch it. We appreciate you. And we also appreciate our sponsors, Northwest Insurance Agency, Mark Villasana. You heard him right from the jump. Give him a call and reach out to him for more. And also you've got Thomas Auto Group, you've got Status Jet, you've got AKM Turf and Greens. So we'll be back later this week with another edition of the podcast. And of course, we're supported by so many more great sponsors. So you'll hear from some of them as well on that pod. But hope you guys enjoyed this live edition of the podcast. Catch you guys later this week with another edition. Thanks for listening. Catch you guys next time.
Thanks for listening to the On the Pony Express podcast with Billy Embody.
Follow us on your socials on X at SMU on 3 and on Instagram at on3SMU.
And keep it locked to ontheponyexpress.com for more coverage.